Aloha and good afternoon. Thanks for joining me here in the H&N Digital Center. I'm Dylan Ancheta. We are currently standing by for a live news conference happening in Honolulu, right outside, I believe, the State Library near the Patsy Mink statue there. As you can see, a bunch of lawmakers, they're actually going to be discussing the protection of abortion rights here in Hawaii. It has been a hot topic issue in states across the nation. As you can see, they are still getting started. They are handing out some lei there in just a few moments. We anticipate the first speaker will approach the podium. But again, this is a live look in downtown Honolulu, right outside the State Library. They are joined today by advocates for abortion rights and lawmakers from all across the state. You see there Senator Ron Kochi and some other high profile members of Hawaii's state legislature. So we're going to sit on this and give it a few moments. They are going to, again, they are handing out their leis before the start of this press conference, but they will be discussing the protection of abortion rights here in Hawaii. So we're going to let this image stay up for just a little bit as they go ahead and get set.
Okay.
Now, of course, all of the discussion on abortion rights comes after a rather landmark ruling earlier this year by the Supreme Court when they overturned Roe versus Wade. Now, here in Hawaii, we are one of 16 states that protect abortion rights, which means that the Supreme Court decision earlier this year didn't have any immediate impacts on rules here in the islands. We briefly spoke to Colin Moore when this all happened about the overturning of Roe versus Wade. And Colin Moore said that in 1970, Hawaii became the first state to pass a law decriminalizing abortion. And so here we are today. The lawmakers are looking like they're about ready to start their press conference. Let's go ahead and take you there live.
Who is the chair of the Senate CPN committee. Senator. Aloha.
Aloha.
So why are we here today? Number one, we're here in response to unprecedented radical action by the United States Supreme Court. Last year, the Dobbs decision immediately and dangerously upended 50 years of protections in the form of Roe versus Wade, which was critical in securing the right to privacy and reproductive independence for millions of women across the country and here in Hawaii. Today, the Senate took direct action to address this attack on women's personal liberty. We are here today to announce the passage in the Senate of SB 1, the purpose of which is to make clear that a woman's right to privacy and reproductive freedom is secure, and that in Hawaii, Roe remains the law of the land. You guys can... So in a nutshell, SB 1 ensures access to reproductive health care for women. It recognizes as the policy of the state of Hawaii the right to privacy and bodily autonomy of women, and it shields our healthcare providers from frivolous lawsuits that may come from outside interloper states who may try to intimidate the healthcare providers here from continuing to provide abortion access. I'd like to thank my colleagues for supporting this measure, especially the bill author, Senator Gil Keith Agaran, and Senators Joy San Buenaventura and Carl Rhodes for their hard work on this measure. And the biggest thank you goes to the tireless community advocates, many of whom are here, who have bravely and continuously fought to protect a woman's right to choose. Many of these local organizations have been at the forefront of this fight for over 50 years. And this is not just about abortion. As a man, I recognize that I have the privilege of never having to worry about whether the government will interfere with healthcare choices I need to make with my doctor. The state of Texas, who recently passed a law that encourages out-of-state residents to potentially come here to go after our Hawaii doctors, has no interest in whether or not I get a vasectomy. And they will not threaten my doctor with legal action if I have that conversation with him. That is fundamentally unfair and wrong. It's also not the way we do things here in Hawaii. And I'm proud to stand here with these advocates today to return us to Roe and make sure that in Hawaii it stays that way. Mahalo.
So, aloha. I am so proud to be in the Hawaii State Senate with my male colleagues who helped introduce men like Senator Keohokalole, who pushed us to fast track this bill that protects the women's right of privacy, women's right to choose. We have to remember that 53 years ago, 3 years before Roe versus Wade and the U.S. Supreme Court recognized the women's right to choose and women's right of privacy, 3 years, Hawaii was the first state in 1970 to legalize abortion in a bipartisan effort by a Republican State Representative Patsy Saiki. Today, I am so proud of my colleagues. Our Hawaii State Senate reaffirmed that right. Like our colleagues did 53 years ago, we stood by our medical providers because SB 1 is a medical protection right. We want to ensure that our medical providers who provide safe abortions are protected from subpoena, from arrest, from harassment, from any kind of legal threat that any of these states who have outlawed abortion are threatening our medical providers with. For those in rural Hawaii, SB 1 expanded that rights to provide for physician's assistants also, as well as APRNs. SB 1 also ensures that the rights in privacy, as my colleague Senator Keohokalole has stated, remains in the statute as it was codified in our state constitution, the right of privacy, as it was codified in 1970, 53 years ago, and that the Hawaii State Senate realizes that it's not only the woman's right of privacy, it's a person's right of privacy. If you look at SB 1, it is gender neutral because we understand that a person's right of privacy transcends that of a woman because women's rights are human's rights as well as everyone's rights. Thank you very much.
At this time, we had a special guest that just joined us, so we wanted to invite our LG to the podium for a few short remarks. LG?
Thank you. Aloha, everyone. Thank you for being here. Today is a huge day. When Roe v. Wade was struck down by our Supreme Court, I think not just in Hawaii, throughout the nation, there was a huge disappointment and disbelief. And really this realization that we must do more to protect the rights of our people. What the Senate has done today is take that huge step to ensure that what is being the current practice of allowing abortion for our citizen is maintained. I am just so thankful that the Senate has taken this step. We look forward to continuing to work with the administration, the House, and the governor to make sure that this protection is afforded to many of the young women and young girls. I especially want to thank not just Senator Joyce and Buenaventura, not just Senator Carl Rhodes, but many others, Senator, the leadership for taking on this issue. And this is not an easy issue. And for us to deal with consent, for us to deal with shield law, for us to deal with so many things that protect the lives and the care of young girls and young women, this is a huge, huge step. And thank you for allowing me to be here. Special thanks to many of the advocates, Commission on the Status of Women, Planned Parenthood, many of the women advocates, the prosecutor's office. The Senate would not be here without all of you folks. So mahalo.
At this time, we would also like to invite to the podium to speak a few of our community advocates. So the first one would be representing Hawaii Women Lawyers.
On behalf of the Board of Directors of Hawaii Women Lawyers, we are thrilled to see Senate Bill 1 passing out of the Senate, and we want to express our sincere gratitude to all of you for your hard work in bringing the bill this far. You have all gone above and beyond to connect and collaborate with the community and stakeholders to draft a bill that represents the intent of communities across Hawaii to protect our access to health care, including the right to abortion care as it existed under Roe. We know that an overwhelming majority of Hawaii voters feel it is important our laws ensure the current rights that all persons have for reproductive health care stand, and we have trusted and we continue to trust our legislators to uphold those rights. As we see states across the nation going dark in the wake of Dobbs, we are thankful to be in a place that understands the importance of protecting the rights of all persons as they existed under Roe. We especially want to acknowledge and thank the many and diverse groups that have dug in to make this bill a reality, including providers, patients, the Hawaii Abortion Collective, Planned Parenthood, Japanese American Citizens League, faith leaders, and all of you here today. Over 50 years ago, Hawaii was the first state to protect an individual's right to abortion care. And while we know that much remains to be done to ensure equitable access for all pregnant persons across the state, we see this bill as a critical and positive step towards achieving that goal. As this important measure advances, we look forward to working with the House to continue to ensure that our pre-Roe protections stand. And to all of us joining us here today, please make sure your voices are heard and our policymakers know they stand with our communities. Support your local providers, submit testimony, reach out to your representatives. This is our chance to ensure access stands not only today but for future generations. Thank you.
And our last speaker is going to be a representative of our medical community here.
Aloha. My name is Shandini Raidu, and I'm a board-certified obstetrician-gynecologist, and I provide comprehensive reproductive health care, including abortion care. I represent the Hawaii chapter of the American College of Obstetricians and Gynecologists, and I also represent the Women's Option Center, who, along with Planned Parenthood, are the major providers of abortion care in our state. Abortion is an essential part of healthcare, and I understand firsthand the importance of abortion access every day when I take care of patients. Some people come to me with very wanted pregnancies, but who've discovered a devastating and lethal fetal diagnosis. Some patients come to me after developing a complication in pregnancy that endangers their own life. And some come to me whose pregnancy makes achieving their future goals of going to college, starting their small business, or pursuing their dreams all the more difficult. I see these patients every day. I sit with them and I listen to their stories. And as a physician, I care for them and support them as they make these intimate decisions for themselves and their families. We want to thank the Senate for working so hard to move this measure through. As the first state to legalize abortion, Hawaii has an incredibly proud legacy as a leader in reproductive rights, and we are glad to see that our legislators are continuing that tradition. We also want to thank the community advocates who have worked tirelessly alongside us to move this through. All the individuals and organizations who are part of the Hawaii Abortion Collective and Planned Parenthood. This truly takes a community effort, and none of this would be possible without all of us. But while we're proud and grateful that SB 1 is moving forward, we know that there is still a lot more work to do to ensure that our patients across our state have access to the abortion care that they need and when they need it. We look forward to working with House members in the coming weeks and months to move this bill forward and to continue to protect pregnant people's access to abortion care in our state. Mahalo.
Okay, at this time, we're going to open up for some questions from the media. So if you do have a question, please raise your hand. We'll call on you and just say your name and the media outlet that you are representing. Daryl.
Daryl Huff from Hawaii News Now. Could I get a little bit more specific information about the immediate threat to women or providers that is posed by the loss of Roe on the across the country? Is there the need for this bill to move quickly? What was the immediate fear that might happen to someone in Hawaii who either seeks an abortion or seeks or provides care?
Absolutely. So like I said, I'm here on behalf of the Board of Hawaii Women Lawyers, so we do talk about this a fair amount. As I think Senator Jarrett Beck mentioned earlier, one of the biggest impetus of this was the Texas lawsuit. Texas and several other states are severely overreaching to the degree where, we do have a college here, we have tourists that come here, and they may need medical care. And those states think that it's appropriate for them to be able to go after our doctors, our providers. That is so grossly overreaching. And then, of course, there's the fact that whenever a law is in flux, other people don't know what to do. So especially for our patient providers, this is a huge step for them because they should be able to provide the care they need to provide without fear of retribution, without fear of penal penalties, anything like that. So this was something critical to return access and protections back to what it was under Roe.
Was there any issue about the right of an underage young lady to seek abortion without the medical consent? Was that a consent issue floating around there as something that might have been affected by Roe?
Not necessarily affected by Roe, but it is something that was addressed in the bill because the right to health care and the right to make your own decisions extends to all persons. And of course, with respect to parental consent and age issues, there are sometimes issues where the very people that should be giving the consent are the people that put them in that position. And there's some obvious problems with that. So we are very proud of Senate Bill 1 and that it does address those problems.
That's addressed in the bill?
Correct.
Maybe you could talk from medical perspective. Did those outside lawsuits, progressive lawsuits, that is it having on doctors, physicians, people that be taken care of with trying to?
I think the threat of a lawsuit for taking care of people when they're here in our state is something that would have had a very chilling effect on me and my colleagues in our community. I think we would have definitely hesitated to provide care that we knew was necessary and important and life-saving if we thought that other states would potentially be pursuing legal action against us.
That was great what you said. Okay, sorry. You can say that one more time.
Oh, I'll do my best. I think the threat of legal action would have had a chilling effect on myself and my colleagues when we are faced with patients who travel to our state and receive care here. If we thought that other states would be potentially pursuing legal action against us when we took care of people in front of us when they needed us for life-saving and essential health care, I think many people might hesitate to provide that care.
And then for lawmakers, anyone can answer this. I know you had mentioned sending a message out to other states. Is that the point of this gathering, or also a message to send to the House side that this is a very important issue and you want to make sure that they pass about their side?
The answer is yes. We fast-tracked this bill because we want to make sure that the state of Hawaii, that the 3 generations of women that grew up under the 1973 abortion law that got codified and that got legalized know that we back them and that we are standing by them and that the medical providers who provided them with safe abortions will not be arrested, will not be harassed. And yes, we do want the House to understand how the Senate and the rest of you feel about this issue and that we do want them to rapidly pass this and have it sent to the governor for his signing.
So we want the bill to pass when it gets to the House. So I've been talking to the Speaker, and our committee chairs have been in conversation with House chairs. And we are hopeful that we have come out with a product that both chambers are going to be able to ratify quickly. And from a technical perspective, we have worked hard enough to think that we've got a good bill that can take effect right away. We've sent a clean date to the House. If they agree and it's not amended, it can be quickly passed and then sent up to the governor's desk. So we have been collaborating with our colleagues in the House, as well as the advocates have been very engaged with both houses, and so we're optimistic about the success when the bill is transmitted over.
I'm sorry, it's hard to hear. Did you say the House has already agreed to the amendment?
No, I said we've been in communication. I've been talking to the Speaker. Our committee chairs have been talking to chairs in the House. We've been both sides engaged with the advocates, and at this point we felt that we've incorporated a lot of the concerns that need to be addressed, and we've sent a clean date over. So if the House is in agreement, it doesn't have to come back to us, so that it can get to the governor's desk quickly. I guess I would say after the Dobbs decision, the Speaker and House members, myself and members of the Senate signed a communication saying that we were committed to preserving reproductive rights for the women here in Hawaii. After the election, a lot of communications were sent to have a health chair, but also a consumer protection chair that would be an advocate. And I think Senator San Buenaventura as Human Services and Health Chair, Senator Keohokalole as the Consumer Protection Chair, Senator Rhodes in Judiciary have in fact fulfilled that roles after they were selected by the caucus. And you see the result in SB 1 today of that collaborative effort.
Is Senate Bill 1, is this the most pressing issue, most important issue? This legislative session?
Okay, we'll go on. If there's any other questions on SB 1. Okay, if not, since we do have some of our Senate leadership here, we will take a few questions on some of the bills that we passed out earlier today on third reading. So maybe Paul.
To the homeless person on the street, all of the bills that deal with homelessness is the most important issue that we are dealing with. For those who cannot find affordable housing to rent, for those who would like to purchase and they can't pay the $1 million median price, that's the most important thing. For the women in this state, this is clearly at the top of the list of what they would like to do. The great thing about doing this job is that there are so many priority ones, and you get to work and touch the lives of so many people. And so I don't look at it like this is the number one, but what is on our list, what do we need to do, and this certainly was on the top of all of the lists we have, but that list includes an array of items that we've worked on.
Please.
A lot of the tax relief measures, they got a lot of attention at the beginning of the session. The governor's been pushing for them, but not a lot made it through the House and the Senate. I guess if you have concerns with those proposals, is there anything wrong with that?
Today is the report, right? I believe the Council of Revenues is meeting this afternoon. That's the biggest driver to what we're going to be able to do, and off of that final report, we'll be making decisions. I think that the governor has said that the Alice community needs our help, and we have said we want to help that community. We just maybe will have a different mechanism by doing that, and I think that we may be looking at some of the things we did with those payments that were available. But again, we want it to be simple and make sure that the people we're helping are going to get the money and not have a complicated bureaucracy of paperwork and filing that they would have to go through to put their money in their pocket. They need the money now. And I think that that's going to be the focus of some of the relief that we would like to put into the hands of the citizens here.
You mentioned the core report from this afternoon. Is there concern in the chamber that the package in total is just too expensive?
It's not that the package is too expensive. The package is based on a one-time revenue windfall. The concern is more about what would be sustainable on an annual basis, and will we have a revenue stream that would support that, and we need to make sure that we've got a good financial plan. Otherwise, people are gonna, again, we'll have to look at laying off people that were hired or reducing services, and at this point we want to be sure that we can continue to deliver the services we're doing and get help into the Alice community.
Okay, any other questions? If not, thank you folks for coming and have a great day. Mahalo.
We've learned that the state Supreme Court has ruled that taxpayers don't have to foot the bill for ex-police chief Louis Kealoha's legal defense. For more on this, we spoke to a legal expert, Megan Cao. Here's what she had to say.
Prior to this Hawaii Supreme Court opinion, what was happening was the Honolulu Police Commission was looking at two factors. Number one, what was alleged in the complaint, and number two, the actions of the police officer and whether or not those actions were within the scope and duty of a police officer. And so the Honolulu Police Commission found that Mr. Kealoha should be afforded free legal defense so that he could defend against the criminal charges in the federal case, United States versus Louis Kealoha. The Honolulu Police Commission looked at four factors. Number one, the first factor was that Mr. Kealoha, or at the time Chief Kealoha, assigned units to surveil Gerard Puana. Number two, they created fake police reports to arrest Gerard Puana. Number three, they did in fact arrest Gerard Puana for allegedly stealing the mailbox. And number four, they used their cell phones in order to communicate. Based on those four factors and the allegations contained in the federal complaint against Mr. Kealoha, the Honolulu Police Commission found that the taxpayers were responsible for paying for Mr. Kealoha's legal defense. What happened next is the government appealed to the First Circuit, and the circuit court judge agreed with the Honolulu Police Commission and found that the taxpayers were in fact responsible for paying for Mr. Kealoha's legal defense. The government again appealed to the Intermediate Court of Appeals. The Intermediate Court of Appeals made two findings. Number one, that the complaint or the allegations themselves should be relied on. But number two, that general police responsibilities should not be relied on. In any event, the Intermediate Court of Appeals agreed with the Honolulu Police Commission for different reasons that Mr. Kealoha's legal defense should be paid by the Honolulu taxpayers. Then what happened next was the Hawaii Supreme Court reviewed the entire record and disagreed. The Hawaii Supreme Court has now found that the taxpayers of Honolulu should not be responsible for paying for Mr. Kealoha's legal defense in the criminal case, United States versus Louis Kealoha. The Hawaii Supreme Court has basically changed the way the Honolulu Police Commission should look at all police officer cases going forward. The Hawaii Supreme Court now says that the proper standard is looking at two factors. Number one, the allegations contained in the complaint, and number two, the actual acts of the police officer. When looking at the complaint, the Honolulu Police Commission should look at what is alleged. Is it alleged that the police officer is acting in his or her own interest, or on the behalf of the Honolulu Police Department and the community. If in fact the police officer is acting in his or her own interest, then that is a factor that weighs in favor of having the police officer pay for his or her own defense. The second factor that the Hawaii Supreme Court says that the Honolulu Police Commission should look at are the actual acts of the police officer. In other words, is the officer acting in his or her own best interest, or is the police officer acting in the best interest of the police department and the community? For example, in this case, the Hawaii Supreme Court found that Mr. Kealoha was acting in his own best interest to protect his wife, Mrs. Kealoha, in the allegation that Drive Puana had stolen the mailbox in order to set him up for fraud. And so the Hawaii Supreme Court will no longer allow the Honolulu Police Commission to look at the general responsibilities of a police officer. The Honolulu Police Commission needs to look at those two factors. Number one, the actual actions of the police officer, and number two, the allegations contained in the complaint. The effect that this ruling will have on police officers going forward is that the Honolulu Police Commission will have to look more closely at the facts that are being alleged regarding each police officer in each case going forward. If there are acts that are alleged where the police officer is acting is in his or her own best interest and not in the interest of the community, it's likely that the police commission will find that taxpayers should not be held responsible for paying for the police officer's legal defense. On the contrary, if the police officer is acting within the interest of the community or the police department, then it's likely that the police commission will find that the taxpayers will have to pay for the legal defense of that police officer. It's my understanding that this is the first time the Hawaii Supreme Court has ruled on this issue. It's my understanding that the issue had not been appealed prior to this case. This case is not the normal case, right? We rarely see police officers using an entire police force to complete a vendetta against somebody. And so the Hawaii Supreme Court had to take up review of this case because it included factors that are not necessarily considered in other cases. So with this being one of the most extreme cases that the Hawaii Supreme Court had to consider, it found that looking at the police officer's individual activities is going to be what determines whether or not that police officer gets taxpayer-funded defense. So the Hawaii Supreme Court did also make clear that it is the burden of the police officer seeking the funds to prove by a preponderance of the evidence, which means more likely than not, that he or she was acting in the best interest of the community and that the allegations in a complaint are allegations that accuse the police officer of acting within the scope and duty of his or her police authority. And so if a police officer can come to the police commission and show I was actually acting in the scope and representation of being a police officer and in the best interest of the community and the police department, then the police commission will allow that police officer to receive funds to pay for his or her legal defense. As an example, if a police officer is just responding to a normal 911 call and there is an outstanding bench warrant for the person that's being detained, and the person being detained alleges excessive force while arresting that person, and the police officer can show that there's no relationship to that person, the police officer doesn't know that person, doesn't have any grudge against that person, but has to use excessive force because the suspect is being violent, then it's likely that the police commission is going to allow that police officer to have taxpayer-funded defense. On the contrary, if the police officer responds to a 911 call and it's an allegation that the police officer knows the suspect, that they've had trouble in the past, that they have a bad relationship, that the police officer has a vendetta against this suspect, and that the police officer used excessive force against this suspect, it's going to be likely that the police commission is not going to allow the police officer to have taxpayer-funded legal defense. So what's going to happen next is the city is going to have to file basically a lawsuit in order to get a judgment or an order that says that Louis Kealoha owes this amount and a certain amount to the city and county of Honolulu in order to collect. The next step is going to be, does Louis Kealoha have funds to pay that judgment? Right now, as I understand, he has to pay back the $250,000 that he was paid as his separation package from the Honolulu Police Department, and that the city is currently trying to collect on that. The city will now be trying to collect an additional amount, and the question is going to be, does Louis Kealoha have the funds to pay it back?
Now, in some lighter news, we turn it over to our Billy V in his Island Beat podcast. And today he's speaking with Mele Apana on the grand return of her beloved Mother's Day special. Here's that conversation.
From the Hawaii News Now Digital Center, it's Mele Apana.
Yay!
Sister, look at us.
I'm always so happy every time I share space with you and get to hang out with you.
It's like we've never left.
I know. Just to let you guys know, he's one of my greatest mentors and teachers and best friends, and I need to preserve Billy, so I'm going to put him on dry ice and pa'akai.
I don't know how comfortable that will feel, but okay.
I need to preserve you, but I love you and I miss you so much, my brother.
Hey, coming up, you have Mother's Day show. Whenever tickets have gone on sale, tell me about past. Has it been hours, days, weeks? How?
1 day.
1 day.
1 day. Yeah.
That's it.
That's it. There's only 1,600 seats. It's been 3 years since the last show, so everybody is anticipating Mother's Day show this year.
Okay, so who's going to be on the show this year?
Well, we got Ekolu Nahoa Navai Ho'olu'o Ki'a Nui Nui, Brother Nolan, Halau Hi'iakai na Makalehua, Natalia Ikama'o, hosted by Lena Girl, Davey D, you,
yay,
and me.
Yep.
And I'm going to be honoring Paula Akana this year.
Wow,
yeah,
that's
icon,
awesome.
icon. So
Of course,
massive,
she
massive
is, of
lineup.
course, the head of Iolani Palace.
And done so much great things for our Lahui.
Sounds good. So that's going to be spectacular. That's what a lineup.
Yeah, huge.
And, you know,
huge.
especially Natalie, we just talked story with her not too long ago, and she moved to Japan.
Yep.
But she says, I said, so you're going to be back for a couple of events like Mele's? And she says, oh, yes, I will be there.
Yes, and you know, and these are all my childhood friends since I've known since Hanamara days, and just to bring all my friends, including you folks, my best friends, all on stage. You know, when you have family on stage that has history, you know that the stage is going to be electrifying. It's going to be beautiful. So I'm excited for that, brother.
Tell us about the history of Mother's Day. When did this start?
Well, I did my first Mother's Day show May of 2006. It was my first annual. I honored my mom on the island of Kauai. And I did it to honor my mom after she passed away right before Christmas of 2005. I was like, what can I do to honor my mom? And so that year, my first annual, I had Keli'i Reshao, Halau Kamuela, Amy Hanaili'i, Kainani Kahunaile, Kaumakaiva Kanakaole, Alea. And it was a sold-out show in Kauai. And remember, I called you from Kauai, KCCN. I called you on radio, right? You were here in Honolulu.
Yep.
I was in Kauai, and I donated my proceeds to Pipi's baby.
Yep.
And the next day, I flew to Honolulu. I said, Pipi, I had a show last night for Mother's Day, and I wanted to donate to your baby. And it was at that moment when I saw his wife, Kawi, bathing Ava in the bathtub. I think she was maybe like a year and a half old. And it was an aha moment right there when I told myself, oh my God, if I ever do Mother's Day again, this is what it's all about. It's about giving back and helping families and helping children that is in need. So every single year, you've seen it, I've donated many of my proceeds to children that are sick with leukemia, with cancer. Some of the children are still alive, and some of them never passed the age of 9 years old. So that's the impact. You know, I tell people it's not about me. It's not about the show. The show is an experience, but it's about the mana and the spirit of love and aloha, honoring our moms and just giving back to the community, giving back to children in need. And that is the secret of my Mother's Day show.
Okay, so that is coming up. Where is it going to be at?
Hilton Hawaiian Village, Coral Ballroom, Sunday on Mother's Day, May 14th.
What time do you start?
Doors open at 9 a.m. for arts and crafts. Doors open to the ballroom at 10 a.m. Show starts at 11.
Because you always have arts and crafts.
Oh, yeah. Even that's a mayhem. It looks like Mary Monarch.
Do you handle all of this yourself?
I do. I actually do. Yeah, I do. I have control of everything, and
Right, but I mean, tell me the process. How do you figure out who's going to be part of
it's all in God's hands. I just ask Kelkua to guide me, hold my hand, walk with me, ask my mom to walk with me, and I actually kind of like it like that. Yeah, because I'm OCD.
Yes, you are. Yes,
just
you
like
are.
you. I
Yes.
learned that from you. I learned that from you,
High
Billy.
five. High five. Okay. Very good. What else are you looking to do? What are you looking forward?
Besides Mother's Day?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I'm getting excited. Besides Mother's Day, I'm going to be emceeing Mary Monarch this year.
Yeah. Okay. So
It's huge.
What?
The 60th
part?
annual with Uncle Kimo Kahuano.
Wow.
I'm co-emceeing with
Okay.
Uncle Kimo Kahuano. That's coming up in April. And then, of course, we're getting ready for the summer concert series for Waimea Valley.
Mm-hmm.
And then in August 5th, actually, I'm going to be doing my very first annual 50th anniversary of Hula Halau o Leina Ala, honoring my auntie Mele Apana, who was the most renowned and most respected kumuhula from the island of Kauai. She passed away in 1998. She raised me, but I'm bringing back all the OGs. Some of them I haven't seen since like first grade. Mary Monarch, 1981, and to see everybody come back to dance and in fact, yeah. By the way, I want you to come and MC too for that one too. August 5th. Yeah, it's a kakuning. Wherever I go, you have to come with me, Billy.
August 5th.
Yes, it's a Saturday. Kauai, Kilohana.
Got it.
Navai Ho'olu o Ke'anui Nui is going to be performing Kapena, Kalani Pe'a, and hosted by Lena, you, me, Davey. It's going to be extraordinary.
Okay.
August-
August 5th. And what is it called?
Auntie Mele Apana's Hula Hala o Leina Ala 50th anniversary.
Okay. I'm just going to put Auntie Mele Apana and I'll fill in the rest later. Okay.
Yeah.
Very good.
Yeah.
I got it on the calendar.
Yeah. Wherever I go, you got to come with me. So besides all of that, I'm doing a lot of TV projects. TV projects as well with all of our BFFs on radio. All us OGs we got together.
Very good.
So we got maybe about, like 12 projects coming up for TV within the next 8 months. So I'm very, very busy with that. It's good fun. So, but again, thank you for always being a part of my life and being a great mentor of mine. And, I always talk about you.
Okay. So when are you going to release a new album?
Maybe next year.
Okay.
I'm actually going to record one. I have to. And it's
Because I was going to say, because
I have to do
your
it.
singing has elevated.
I know. It's because I don't talk on radio. I got to save my voice, yeah.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of music I actually wrote in my dreams for the past, 18 years. And when people would always ask me, how come you didn't do an album yet? And my excuse was, it was a good excuse. It was a reason. It's because we talk on radio so much that I was raspy, right?
Right.
But now that I don't talk every day on radio, my voice got to heal. And I need to tell the stories of how the music came and all the melodies and all the dreams that I had. It's fascinating, but it's coming out.
Okay. Lots happening. Mele Apana, Mother's Day show coming up.
I used to use like Honolulu box office. I used to use Ticketmaster in the past. But what happened was they accidentally printed double the tickets for a few tables, and it was
Since
chaotic.
then.
Ever since that, it gave me like PTSD when these two families who bought the same table were just going at it. I'm like, I can't do this again. And so, yeah, that's why I control the tickets. And I thought it was stressful at first, but after I talked to Auntie Luana from Mary Monarch, and she says she opens up every single envelope for Mary Monarch, and that's like 10,000 people. I'm like, okay, I have nothing to complain about. She does the same way too.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay, just so you know, you now have Mele Apana's phone number, but that's
Yes.
for ticket purposes, and we will see you at her Mother's Day show. Sissy,
Yeah.
I love you.
I love you. Love you guys. See you on Mother's Day, 292-5522. See you there. You're going to see us there.
Mahalo for listening to Island Beat. You can listen to any of these shows anytime and anywhere you go. Head to hawaiinewsnow.com/podcasts. Malamapono, aloha, a hui ho.